Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the course on functional English, organized by the Department of Youth Services, Government of Andhra Pradesh. As I keep saying, when we talk about functional English, we refer to those areas of language use which are put to in our daily life. So whatever English is needed in our day-to-day life is what we are looking at. And with each session, we are looking at the various functions that English is put to. For example, how do we greet? How do we say hello? How do we thank somebody? Or how do we apologize? And in the previous session, we learned about how we make a request and how, when a request is made, how do we respond to a request? And what is the difference between a request and a command? Those of you who are joining us, please, I request you to go through the previous sessions 1 to 12 as you join us, so that whatever we learn gets consolidated. And today's session is on how do you state a preference? But before I go into what a preference is, let me very quickly introduce you to our student friends here who've come to the studio, Suguna and Manasa. Here is Suguna and Manasa. And very quickly, Suguna and Manasa, you can just say a sentence about yourself or a few sentences about yourself.
I'm Suguna and I am from SRR College, BA Journalism.
I'm Mansa. Very good evening to everyone. I'm studying BTech final year in Vikas College of Engineering and Technology.
Now you've seen that we have students of different categories. For example, school students, studying in degree colleges, students studying in engineering colleges. All of us formed our viewer pool. So to make it very simple, so that this is such a heterogeneous group, and therefore we are keeping our assignments or even our learning tasks very simple so that all of you can follow. Now, talking about preferences, the first thing that I have to say when we talk about preferences is life gives us plenty of choices. All the time, from the time we wake up, we seem to be confronted with choices. People give us choices. Your mother might say, what do you want to eat for today? Do you want dosas or chapatis? Or do you want to eat idli or do you want to eat puri? So there is a choice that you make even in the simplest of things, eating. What do you like to drink? A soft drink or a cup of coffee? What would you like to wear? What would you like to read? Which program would you like to watch on television? So since there are so many options, the fact that we have to state our choice is an everyday usage. And therefore, we have included this this session, stating preferences as a part of our learning program. Before we actually look into the technicalities of preferences, again, Suguna and Manasa will read out a role play. I repeat, will not role play, but will read out a scripted conversation between a tailor and a customer. And as you listen to it, I request all of you to make note of those words that actually enable either the customer or the tailor to say that there is a choice. మళ్ళా రిపీట్ చేస్తున్నాను. వీళ్ళు రోల్ ప్లే చదివినప్పుడు ఏ వర్డ్స్ అయితే అవతల వాళ్ళకి చాయిస్ ఇస్తుందో ఆ వర్డ్స్ని మీరు నోట్ చేసుకోండి. I keep repeating again and again that all of you, when you come down to these classes, when you join us on Zoom, or even when you're watching live on YouTube, or even later, the recorded version, I request you to keep a pencil and a pencil and a notebook ready so that you can jot down whatever is interesting, whatever is relevant, and whatever responses we elicit from you, you can always jot it down. Now over to Manasa and Suguna for the role play between a tailor and a customer. And all of you, please be ready with your pencils and notebooks.
Hi friends, we are going to start our canvas. What can I do for you today?
Punjabi dress made.
Would you like to buy the cloth from us, madam?
No, I have bought it. Here it is.
All right. May I take your measurements, ma'am?
Yes, I like slim fit Punjabi dress.
Right, madam.
Now, how long will it take you to get a shirt ready for a Punjabi dress?
About a week, I think.
That's all be right, but I do like to have it before Sunday.
All right, ma'am. Would you prefer one inside a shirt in the pocket or two?
I just want one side only.
Oh, very well, ma'am. Will you come on Tuesday for the trying it?
I would rather come on Wednesday also.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, that was a conversation that you heard between a tailor and a customer. And you will also get to see the conversation. Good that, my students here improvised it. In the conversation that I'm going to show you, it is between a tailor and a male customer. And Suguna has been very smart into changing it into a salwar kameez, but nevertheless, you can read this very quickly. Now, those words that you see in red on the slide are the ones that you need to take note of. We request all the participants on Zoom, please turn on your video too, so that when we do ask you a question, you can respond to us. That's it. Now you must have seen how the highlighted versions tell you what the customer wants. What, I repeat, what the customer wants. Now, whenever we talk of what we want, what are the words that we use to state that this is what I want, or this is what I like, or this is what I prefer? What are those words in English that show your preference? That's point one. The second point is, how do we use these words in the first place? But before I move on to tell you the words that actually show the listener what you want, I would like to recall something that we did when we did the present tense in one of the sessions. And that is, the simple present tense is used for habitual actions, one, to talk about your routines, which is habitual action, to talk about universal truths. And there was yet another one that was very important when I spoke about the simple present, and that is to talk about the the state verbs. And what are they? Let me recall. Now, here is a sentence. I want ice cream. Want is a simple present verb. I want, you can substitute it with I like to. Now, here is another simple present verb. I drink coffee every morning. What is the difference between I want ice cream and I drink coffee every morning? I can also say I'm drinking coffee, and this means right now I'm having a cup of coffee. I am wanting an ice cream. Now, when you take a look at this sentence, I am wanting an ice cream, I am drinking coffee. Now, these two sentences, which of them is correct and which is not, and why? Now, when I say I'm drinking coffee, I start an action and I finish it. The minute I finish drinking, the act of drinking is over, and I say I drank a cup of coffee. So, therefore, this action of drinking, there is every possibility of that action to be finished. And therefore, and now take a look at this wanting. I am wanting ice cream. It's not the question of I finish my wanting today. Anytime, yesterday, today, tomorrow, my craving for ice cream, my wanting for ice cream is the same. So the act of wanting never gets completed. Therefore, we cannot use the word wanting. I'm wanting is never right. And this kind of a verb is called. Now you see what are correct and which one is incorrect. I drink coffee every morning, habitual action, correct. I am drinking coffee, which means at this point of time, I'm drinking coffee, the sentence is correct. I want ice cream, sentence is correct because it is a state verb and the wanting is constant. I'm wanting ice cream, incorrect because the action of want never gets completed. Now, this is something that you need to take care when you talk about preferences like I like, I hate, I admire, so on and so forth. This is an activity verb. It's an act. You can physically feel it. And this is a state verb. And therefore, you cannot use it in the continuous tenses. Next. Other verbs that show you either wants or likes, we are talking about preferences. So the word want, the word like, the word hate, the word prefer, these are all very important words. Here is a list for you: like, dislike, love, hate, prefer, need, want, wish. These are all the verbs that indicate a state, and therefore they cannot be used in the continuous tenses. For example, Rahman loves to sing. What does he like? He loves it. You can never say Rahman is loving to sing. Anytime he loves it. He likes coffee. He is liking coffee. I prefer watching a movie before sleeping. I prefer watching a movie before sleeping. You cannot say I am preferring. Here, the word watching is not a verb. I'll talk to you in a detailed manner about infinitives and gerunds as we move on into the session. But here the verb is, the action is prefer, not watching or even sleeping. Then everybody does not like having pets. A negative sentence: does not like. Everybody does not like having pets. Now, if you take a look at it, these are correct sentences, and the ones marked in red are incorrect sentences. Now, you need to really take a note of this, that when we use the words like want, like, prefer, we cannot use them in the continuous tenses. We cannot say is plus like plus ing, or is plus want plus ing, or is plus prefer plus ing. They are incorrect. Please make a note of this. This is the first rule that you will have to apply while stating your preferences. And let's move on. So, having seen this, what do we learn next? The next part is, when do we state preferences? Now, when do we actually tell our preference? And what is a preference? When we are given choices, there are special phrases we use to say which thing we like more than the other. We call these choices preferences. This is, if you already know the word, no problem. If you do not know, the a little more, heightened word for choice is preference. Take a look at these sentences. I prefer tea to coffee. What does that mean? I like tea more than coffee. I would prefer to have some water. This is an answer when somebody says, I want some water. I perhaps don't want a soft drink or a coffee. I like tea better than coffee. Of the two, again, tea or coffee, I like tea. I prefer reading books. I prefer reading books. Now, I have shortened the sentences. Generally, when you have a word like prefer, it is always a choice: reading books to watching television. I prefer jogging to running. That is, instead of running fast, the slow running, which is called jogging, that is what I prefer. Now, ఈ సెంటెన్సెస్లో మీరు చూసి మళ్ళా కావలసే చదవండి. I prefer tea to coffee. Prefer tea to coffee. Prefer takes to or over. I'll again stress on that. Prefer to have some water. I like better than. I prefer reading, ing form. You either have or to. I prefer to listen to music, to watching television, or I prefer reading to watching. Why do we have those differences? That is, we use, asking for preferences or stating one's preference. ఇంకొకరికి ఏంటి కావాలి, మీ చాయిస్ ఏంటి అని అడుగుతాము. అలాగే మన చాయిస్ ఏంటో కూడా మనం చెప్తాం. సో వెన్ యూ ask somebody, it's called asking about somebody's preferences. And when you respond, it is called responding to preferences, stating preferences. So in both these cases, we are going to take a look at how will we ask and how will we tell somebody about our preferences. One is a question, the other one is a statement. But before we move on, again, a small conversation to make you understand that this is an important task that we do in our daily life. Again, over to Manasa and Suguna for the next conversation.
So here we go with the second conversation. What kind of films do you like the best?
I like comedies. And you?
I'm more into action thrillers.
Really? I really watch them. Who is your favorite actor?
Jackie John.
Don't you watch Hindi films?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Now, you did listen to a conversation between these two. Conversation, let me repeat and I'll highlight. What kind of films do you like best? I was talking to you about we ask somebody for what they like, and automatically they respond with the answer as to what they like. I like comedies. And what about you? I'm more into action thrillers. Look at the way the person uses. I like action thrillers. I'm more into action thrillers. This is the way English is spoken. There's a lot of style in the way we use the English language. Really, I rarely watch them. Who's your favorite actor? And the answer was Jackie Chan. Don't you watch Hindi films? Yeah, I do. Now is the now this conversation, you will not find it in books. You will not find it in your exam. You'll not be asked to write this kind of a conversation in your examination. But this is a conversation that occurs in our day-to-day life. And this is exactly what I mean when I say in functional English, we have to look at how we use English in our day to day life. And that was the conversation. Now, back to our lesson, and that is now you saw how questions were asked and answers were given. Now, that makes us, go back to how actually a question is asked. How do we ask someone for their preference? What is the question structure? Now, here are the two structures. Which do you prefer? Football or volleyball? You're giving them a choice. Which do you prefer? Football or volleyball? Which do you like better, tea or coffee? Right? Now, what is the structure of a question? Which do you prefer? What is the word order? Question word or question phrase? క్వశ్చన్ ఫ్రేజ్ అంటే విచ్ వన్ అన్నారు అనుకోండి రెండు వర్డ్స్ కలిపితే క్వశ్చన్ ఫ్రేజ్ అవుతుంది ఆక్సిలరీ వర్బ్ డూ subject you and the main verb prefer. Which do you prefer? Which do you prefer? What do you like? What do you like? Which do you prefer? Master this question structure. If you know this first part, adding the second part with whatever choices you want to give the person, you can always do it. So here I'm going to open the chat box for you to ask me questions with the construction. Which do you prefer? మీరు ఏదైనా అడగొచ్చు నాకు మీ ప్రిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటి అని నాకు ఒక రెండు చాయిసెస్ ఇవ్వండి very quickly. I've opened the chat box. You can, you can start your question with which do you prefer? Which do you prefer, ma'am? You can say, one or two. Nobody is typing. If nobody, takes on the chat, then I go back to the session. No one? No one? Which field do you prefer? Okay. A government or okay. Good. Even this is this is not an incorrect one. Which do you have included the field here, correct? But which do you, that order we should not misuse. We can't say which you prefer or which you do prefer, or which prefer do you. That order we cannot mismanage. Exactly. Which field do you prefer, government or private? Very good question, Radha Krishna. Which do you prefer, mango or banana? Okay, my answer would be mango. Which do you prefer? I have no choice there. Government or private? I would always prefer the government sector because I'm working in it. Another question. Which do you prefer, chess or carom? Chess, because it is a mind game. One more. Anybody? Which do you, ice cream or cold drink? Which do you, the verb is missing, prefer or like? Which do you, correct. Now, Now we'll move on. So this is one construction that you have to be very careful with. Which do you prefer? And add the sentence, then you have a very good question that has been formed. But in the previous sessions, we saw that questions don't always begin with a WH word or a question word. We do begin questions with auxiliary verbs or even modals. Take a look at these two. Okay. You can read them silently. Do you prefer hot coffee or iced coffee? Would you prefer to go for a walk or see a movie? Would you rather have dinner with me? How do the questions begin? Do you prefer? I've dropped the which. We cannot have the other auxiliaries like is, are, was, have, or has. We can only use the do forms. Do you like? You can't say was you like, is you like. No. Do you like? So, one construction that we learnt was which do you prefer? The second one, do you like? Do you prefer? And the third one, would you prefer to or would you rather? Please take a detailed look at these structures. These are the four structures that we use to ask about preferences. నాలుగే ఉన్నాయి కాబట్టి కష్టం కాదు. ఎవరికైనా ప్రిఫరెన్స్ మీకేం కావాలి అని అడిగినప్పుడు చాయిస్ ఇచ్చినప్పుడు ఈ 4 కన్స్ట్రక్షన్స్ జాగ్రత్తగా మొదలు పెడితే దీంట్లో ఏదో ఒకటి మొదలు పెడితే యువర్ సెంటెన్స్ ఇస్ బౌండ్ టు బి కరెక్ట్. సో విచ్ డు యూ ప్రిఫర్, డూ యూ ప్రిఫర్, డూ యూ లైక్, వుడ్ యూ ప్రిఫర్ టు or would you rather, would you rather. This is a very formal construction. Now I have already, we use the structure, do you like jalebi? In this question, if you notice, this is a closed question. What do we mean by a closed question? The answer is either a yes or a no. But if you look at the question, do you prefer hot coffee or iced coffee? The answer is an open-ended. This is an open-ended question because the other person is going to clearly give you a statement. I prefer hot coffee to iced coffee. There is a distinct answer. So here, the words that state preferences. What are all the words that state preferences? పెద్దగా ఎక్కువగా లేవు. Just the four you have to learn. Preference. You can ask a sentence using the word preference. Preference is a noun form of the verb prefer. For example, we have coffee or tea. Do you have a preference? నేను అడుగుతున్నాను, ఇంట్లో కాఫీ ఉంది, టీ ఉంది, మీ ప్రిఫరెన్స్ ఏంటి? We can go dancing or sing karaoke. What's your preference? So what's your preference? Do you have a preference? Which do you prefer? This is how we ask a question after giving a choice. Would rather. This is a slightly, trickier one. I will not say difficult. Once you learn it, nothing is difficult. Would you rather go shopping or see a film? Would you rather go shopping or see a film? I would rather, and the reply would be, I would rather see a film. I would rather not go shopping. There are two ways of answering it. What do you want to do? And what do you not want to do? You can answer in both ways. I would rather see a film. I would rather not go shopping. I would rather. Remember that. Preference, would rather. And the third one, straight away, the word prefer. I prefer coffee. Which do you prefer, coffee or tea? I prefer coffee. There are two ways of stating it. I prefer coffee over tea when the choice is given. I prefer singing to dancing. To, prefer and to, prefer and over. So when you practice it, it's very important you check which preposition you are using. Prefer to, prefer over. And the last, like. I like coffee. I like coffee more than tea. There is always a comparison. Whenever there is a choice, there are either two or more than two. So I like coffee more than tea. I like singing more than dancing. Now, an interesting part is it's not always that you like one of the choices given, either tea or coffee or singing or dancing or watching movies or, going out somewhere, traveling, nothing. There, of the two choices, you might not like both of them. Then what do? There's no preference at all. When you're talking to friends, informal means not a formal situation, not a workplace, not to an elder, where the relationship is informal. It could be with a friend or it could be with your boss. If it is an informal gathering, you can simply say, I don't really care. I'm not that choosy. It doesn't matter to me. I'll give you the conversation. We have coffee or tea. Do you have a preference? I'm not choosy. What does that mean? You can give me either coffee or tea. I'm not that picky or choosy. Would you rather go shopping or see a film? I don't really care. If you can take me to shopping or you can take me to a film. I don't, either of the choices, it's the same to me. I can come with you wherever you go. You are more important to me than the shop or the movie. So going together with you is more important. I don't really care. So this is a very informal way of saying the choice does not matter at all. And the next one, again, in a formal situation, how do you say it? Either one is fine. I don't have a preference. Do you want coffee or tea? Either one is fine, thank you. Do you want coffee or tea? I don't have a preference. Thank you. You can give me anything. So this is how we ask a question and also get a response. Now you've seen till here how do we ask somebody for their preference? Which one do you like? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer this or that? Would you rather do this or do that? And the answers are, you straight away say, I prefer this, or I like this, I would rather have this. When you don't have a preference at all, I am not choosy. Either one is fine. It does not really matter. Now, this is how we respond to a question when somebody asks us for a preference, or this is how we ask somebody with a question format. And Once we are done with this, now what are the words that we often use? Hold on. What do we use, how do we use these words in sentences? ఇప్పుడు 4 చెప్పాను. Preference, prefer, like, would rather. When do you use what? And how do you use it? Now take a look at that. When the preference is general, what do we mean by general preference? General preference is something you like more as a whole. It's not tied to specific event or time. మీకేంటి ఇష్టం? ఇప్పుడా వెడ్డింగ్ టైంలో వెళ్ళినప్పుడు స్పెసిఫిక్ టైము ఈవెంట్ ఇవ్వనప్పుడు నాకు సాధారణంగా ఇది ఇష్టం అన్నది చెప్పవలసినప్పుడు we call it general preference. For example, do you prefer coffee or tea? I prefer coffee to tea. I prefer tea over coffee. Notice that the word or, again, notice అనగానే మీరందరూ attention లోకి రావాలి. In the question that you see, we are using the word or. Notice that the word or is used in the question form. Do you prefer coffee or tea? It's a general statement. నేను ఇప్పుడు మీకు కాఫీయో టీయో ఇవ్వడానికి అడగలేదు, మామూలుగా అడుగుతున్నా. And in the answer, it is either to or over. I prefer coffee or tea అనకూడదు reply. I prefer coffee to tea. I prefer tea or tea to coffee. I prefer tea over coffee. Now, do you like tea or coffee better? I like. ఇక్కడ prefer అని వాడాము, ఇక్కడ like అని వాడాము. So, general preferences అడిగినప్పుడు we use the words prefer or like. Notice that in the question form, the word better comes at the end in the question or even in the answer. I like tea better than coffee. I like tea better. Now, when you are using both, then the word better comes near the noun that you actually like. I like tea than coffee better. No, I like tea better than coffee. I like samosa better than bhaji. I like dash better than dash. This is the construction that you have to master. So here, prefer to, prefer over. I like dash better than dash. Okay. Now, the general preferences, prefer and like. And what is a general preference? Some preference that you like as a whole with no specific time or event mentioned. That is called a general preference. And what do you mean by a specific preference? General undi ante specific unnate. What is a specific preference? A specific preference is something, I hope people have identified the error. It should not be preferences, it is preference. Specific preference is something you like or want more at a given point of time, either right now or in the future. ఇప్పుడు నాకు నచ్చింది, లేదా నాకు ఫ్యూచర్లో, అంటే ఇప్పుడు నచ్చింది కానీ ఫ్యూచర్లో దాని చాయిస్ నేను వాడబోతున్నాను. దట్ ఈస్ వెన్ యూ యూజ్ ఇట్. And what are the words used? Would rather or would prefer. This word would makes it very, very specific. Would you rather go out or stay home? అంటే ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇప్పుడు మీకు అడిగి మీరు ఇప్పుడు నాకు సమాధానం చెప్పి వెంటనే మనం ఇంట్లో ఉండడమో బయటికి వెళ్ళడమో చేసినప్పుడు అడిగిన క్వశ్చన్, వుడ్ యు రాదర్ గో అవుట్ ఆర్ స్టే హోమ్? వుడ్ యు ప్రిఫర్ టు స్టే హోమ్ ఆర్ గో అవుట్? అంటే జనరల్గా మీ ఇష్టం ఏంటి అని. వుడ్ యు రాదర్ గో అవుట్ or stay home? Right now, what do you want to do? I would rather go out than stay home. I would rather, when you're speaking, it's called a contracted form. Kudistam dani. Then that becomes I'd. I'd rather. I'd rather. Listen to how I'm saying it. I'd rather. I would. I'd rather. I had. So, that is how this is used. I would rather go out than stay home. I'd rather go out. Notice that with would rather, we use the word than. అక్కడ ఆర్ కి మనం టు గాని ఓవర్ గాని వాడాం, లేదా బెటర్ దాన్ వాడాం. ఇక్కడ రాదర్ వచ్చినప్పుడు డెఫినెట్ గా దాన్ వాడాలి, THAN in the response, and the contraction of I would is I'd. And would prefer. Would you prefer to go out or stay home? I'd prefer to go out. I'd prefer to go out than stay home. So this, when you want to very specifically ask for a preference, which means at this point of time, what do you want to do? We use would rather or would prefer. So here, మనకు నేర్చుకోవాల్సినవి నాలుగే. Prefer, like, better than, would rather, or would prefer. Now, with these four, expressions, we can ask or we can reply for stating our preferences. And we saw the question form and also the answers for this. Now here, let's move on. And the next one after specific preferences is, now we have seen what to use. A very quick look at the grammar part. And again, before taking a look at the grammar part, we'll take a short break. Let the two students present in our studios who've come to us to help us to learn stating preferences, we'll ask them to read a conversation. The third one, this one.
We are going to start, friends.
With the third conversation. Okay. Do you listen to music?
I listen to music every day.
What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to all sorts of music. My MP3 player is full of jazz, rock, and other sorts of music. I also like to listen to country music.
I only listen to pop music. I'm not really interested in classical music. I find it somewhat slow and boring.
Well, at first I didn't like it too, but my father was crazy about country music. When I was a kid, he would often take me to live country music concerts, and over the years, I developed a taste for it. Now I make it a point to listen to live music whenever I go. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a short conversation on what kinds of music either, Manasa likes or, Sujana is asking questions about. Now, having seen how, again, we use this kind of wanting to know what the other person likes very often in our day-to-day conversation. Now, let us look at the structure or the grammar of the sentences. Okay, how exactly it is used. I like fruits more than sweet. If you take a look at the sentence, I is the subject. Like, there is a noun. Fruits is a noun. More than sweets. Sweets is also a noun. So this I like dash noun, any noun. I like fruits. I like, vegetables. I like non-vegetarian dishes more than vegetarian dishes. Or I like vegetarian food. I like curd more than buttermilk. Anything. These two are nouns. I like dash more than dash. This is one way of saying it. The second way of saying it, he likes swimming better than playing football. He likes swimming. Now here, let me, tell you. He likes swimming more than playing football. In this sentence, if you notice, he likes swimming. Swimming అన్నది ఒక యాక్షనే. ప్లేయింగ్ ఫుట్బాల్ అన్నది కూడా యాక్షనే. కానీ ఇక్కడ యాక్చువల్గా చేసే యాక్షన్ ఏంటి? ఇష్టపడడం అన్నది యాక్షన్. లైకింగ్ ఇస్ ద యాక్షన్. సో ద వర్డ్ స్విమ్మింగ్ ఆర్ ప్లేయింగ్ is not a verb. అది యాక్షన్స్ కావు. సెంటెన్స్ లో మెయిన్ యాక్షన్ లైకింగే. This is, you have to understand that. The second thing is, whenever you have an ing form of a verb, play, playing, sing, singing, stop, stopping, hear, hearing, see, seeing, read, reading. When you have the ing form of a verb without an auxiliary, ఇంతకు ముందు కూడా మీకు చెప్తున్నాను, without a helping verb, is, was, are, am, were, or without the helping verb, has been, or have been, or had been, it is not a verb at all. So whenever you come to, whenever while reading, if you come across words, verb plus ing, without a helping verb, it is a noun. Verb, ing form of a verb without a helping verb is a noun. It is not a verb. So if you take a look at this sentence, he is swimming. He likes swimming better than playing football. The action that he is doing is liking. What does he like more than what? So swimming is a noun and playing football is also a noun. Take a look at this. Prefer, subject plus prefer plus noun over a noun. She prefers fruits over sweets. He likes fruits over sweets, or she prefers fruits over sweets. Very, very general. They prefer flying to driving. Prefer is the verb. Flying and driving, they are nouns. So this is one construction that you should learn. And the second one, would rather. Those were the general ways of stating preferences. Now, very specific way of stating a preference, would rather. This is the difference. Used to show preference for the future or an event that could possibly happen in the future. Would rather plus verb. Prefer ki, like ki మనం nouns వాడాం. Now, what about would rather? It takes only the verb. It takes the verb. Would you rather go to Delhi or Mumbai? Would you rather? Would మధ్యలో subject rather Go is a verb. Would you rather go to Delhi or Mumbai? I would rather go to Mumbai. I don't have a preference. Would you rather have chocolate or vanilla ice cream? I would rather have chocolate ice cream. Either is fine. So, would rather, would prefer, they take a verb. Prefer and like, they take a noun. If you remember this much, as far as grammar is concerned, you should be able to do it well. Now, then, whenever we use, whenever we use would rather, the word than is used, THAN. But then there is also another than, THEN. What is the difference between these two? Than and then. Than is used for comparisons. THEN is used for stating next. What comes next? We have this very often. He is stronger than Harish. THAN. I first made a cup of coffee. Then I went to the dining hall to place the dishes on the dining table. Then, THEN. Many a time, students confuse THAN and THEN. Therefore, it's very, very important to note that THAN is used while replying to the answer to a question which uses would rather. Would you rather prefer, or would you prefer coffee or tea? I would rather prefer coffee than tea. Or I would simply say, I would rather prefer coffee and stop. Coming to the next part. Now, having seen the grammar, now we will have to now take a look at, it's not just enough to know. It's very important to understand how we can practice this. మనకి ఎక్కడ ఆపర్చునిటీస్ వస్తాయి ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయడానికి. If these are taught in the classroom, your teacher will sit and make you practice. But more often in the examinations, what we see is we only learn or study what we write in the exam. We perhaps don't even take a look at what happens when we speak. So, classrooms do not give us as much opportunity as it is advisable to enable students to practice, enable students to speak. We don't create situations where students actually speak, learners actually speak. Therefore, many students, they are able to write examinations, but when it comes to speaking, they are very, very hesitant. But then, if you want to learn to speak in everyday life, if you want to learn to use communication in your daily life, it's important that you practice. Here is a small tip for you. I'll tell you how you can practice with your own friends. Now, to demonstrate that, we are going to have an open ended extempore without any script how Suguna and Manasa will practice first. Which do you prefer? Look at the way they practice. Which do you prefer? Over to Suguna and Manasa. I would like you to take the specific structure. Which do you prefer? Suguna, you can first ask a series of questions to Manasa, and Manasa, you'll have to reply to each question. When you reply, please take care of the rules that we actually learned.
Yes, ma'am.
So, shall we start?
Yes.
Yes.
Which do you prefer, rice or noodles?
I prefer rice over noodles.
Okay, the second one, which do you prefer, reading books or watching TV?
I prefer reading books to watching TV.
Okay. The next one, which do you prefer, taking a bus or walking to a college?
I prefer walking to college over taking a bus.
Living in a city, which do you prefer, living in a city or in a village?
I prefer living in city over living in a village.
Which do you prefer, beach or hilltops?
I always prefer beaches over hilltops.
Which do you prefer, a western wear or an ethnic wears?
I prefer ethnic wears over western wears. Can I ask some
Now,
questions?
Manasa to Suguna.
Can I ask some
Sure.
questions? Yeah. Which do you prefer? Potato chips or banana chips?
Okay, I prefer banana chips over potato chips.
Which do you prefer? Summer or winter to go on a holidays?
I do prefer summer over winters for holidays.
Which do you prefer? Doing yoga or exercising in a gym?
I do prefer exercising over gym.
Oh wow. Which do you prefer? Badminton or basketball?
Oh, I would love to prefer badminton over basketball.
Okay. Which do you prefer? Action film or romantic film?
Bit weird, but I do prefer film over a romantic film.
Why?
Okay, why? Because action film is something we didn't expect. Romance is something we know before only. Like, okay, this is gonna happen at the end. But action is something we don't expect always. So I do prefer action film over romantic films.
Okay. You prefer action films, so one is beating others.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Okay.
something
Now,
thriller.
now here, there, in the in the slightly unscripted one, as it is, uh, they did have questions, very structured questions of which do you prefer. It didn't move on to why do you prefer that, which do you prefer. There was one statement made, I would love to prefer. When you use a structure like that, would love to prefer, it means that that is not actually your preference. But then maybe you would like that. So be careful when you say, I prefer this over this. I prefer dash to dash. The would construction is not used when you state general preferences. In this, little conversations that you had, turns as we call it, which do you prefer? Staying at home or going to a movie? I prefer staying at home over going to a movie. This is called one turn, one round. In these brief rounds, turns of conversations that Manasa and Suguna had, it was only which do you prefer? I prefer dash over dash, or I prefer dash to dash. In the same manner, students, as learners, you always have somebody who's learning along with you. After all, you're going to schools, you're going to colleges, you have people at home. Just write a small, the options and start practicing with somebody. When you practice with a structured format like this is what I do. In a structured format like this, after some time, you will certainly master that structure. ఆ స్ట్రక్చర్ మీకు మనసులో పడిపోతుంది. Once the structure is clear, and when you know this is the correct way that I'm saying it, your confidence levels will increase. And when your confidence increases, you will be using English very fluently, very clearly, and very, very happily. It's that happy use of language that is very important. And that is what, only it is only when you're fluent you can be happy. And to be fluent, you need to practice. And how do you practice? First, we structure it. ఏంటి కరెక్టో తెలుసుకొని అది రాసుకొని అది ఇంకొకరితో ప్రాక్టీస్ చేయాలి. Now we'll take the next structure again, and the structure is do you like and better than. I repeat, do you like something better than something else? This is the question that Suguna is going to ask with different options to Manasa, and Manasa is going to reply. I request both Suguna and Manasa to take it slow. See that your sentences are uttered slowly and clearly.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. First, I will ask some questions.
Sure.
Do you like studying in the library better than studying at classroom?
I like study in library better than studying at classrooms.
Do you like traveling through a train better than traveling through a plane?
I do like traveling in a train better than traveling in a flight.
Do you like chatting with friends better than family?
I like chatting with family better than friends.
Do you like to read a novel better than a comic book?
I like to read novels better than comic books.
Okay. Do you like a coffee better than green tea?
I like coffee better than a green tea.
Thank you.
So I would like to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you like studying in the morning or better than studying at night?
I like studying at night better than studying in the morning.
Do you like chatting with friends over WhatsApp or calling them via telephone?
I like calling them over telephone better than chatting with friends on WhatsApp.
Do you like watching a comedy film or a horror movie better than what?
I like horror movies better than watching comedy films.
Do you like fast foods or better than which are made at homemade food items?
I like homemade food better than fast food.
Okay, that was it. And here,
Thank you.
in the conversation, in the little turns that they had, you've seen that in the hurry that they were in, probably. Do you like something better than? You cannot use both or and better than. One cannot say, do you like watching movies or better than studying books or reading books? So, what is it that we need to know? Do you like dash better than dash? Or do you like dash or dash? This is the difference. I want Suguna to perform again, go through her questions again a bit slowly, very clearly. Suguna, the thing is, do you like studying in the morning or studying at night? Then the reply is, I like studying in the morning better than studying at night. Manasa, that should be your answer,
Yes,
and this
ma'am.
should be your question. Again,
Do you like studying in the morning or studying at the night?
slightly slower, Suguna,
Sure, ma'am.
because there are so many watching, so we want it to be clear for all of them.
Do you like studying in the morning or studying at the night?
Very good.
I like studying at night better than studying in the morning.
Do you like chatting with friends on WhatsApp or calling them on telephone?
I like calling them over telephone or better than starting with sorry.
Yeah, I would repeat.
Yeah,
Do you
can you repeat
like
it?
chatting with friends on WhatsApp or calling them over telephone?
I like calling them over telephone better than chatting with friends on WhatsApp.
Okay, now a few questions from Manasa to Suguna.
Do you like
Be careful with the structure. Do you like something or dash?
Yes, ma'am. Do you like studying in the library or studying at classroom?
I like studying in the library better than studying at classroom.
Do you like watching cooking shows or news?
Okay. I like watching cooking shows better than what is it?
News.
Better than the news.
Okay, that's it. So
Thank you.
this is, you need to take care of this as to how do you like. One was, what do you prefer? Which do you prefer? The second is, do you like? And there is yet another structure. Now, this We use it for very specific preferences and also to talk about perhaps preferences that we show that happen in the future. And what is that? Would rather. Now be very careful when you use the would rather. Again, over to Suguna and Manasa. They're practicing now. And this is how all of you also should practice.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity, ma'am. Would you rather study English or French?
No, I don't
I
want
would.
you to look at the paper at all. Listen to her and respond.
Okay.
The one who asks alone has the paper. Yes,
Okay. Can you repeat it once again?
Would you rather study English or French?
I would read French
I would
rather.
rather,
I would.
I would rather,
Okay, I need to miss that. Okay. I would rather read English over French.
I would rather study English. You have to pay attention to the verb that the person is asking. No writing. Don't, this is the reason why I never ask you to write, because when you write, you want to read only that. Listen to the question carefully. Again, Suguna, the question was, would you rather study English or French? The answer would be,
I
I would rather study English than French. Okay,
got a bit confused now.
no,
Sorry
no,
for
no problem.
that.
Absolutely
Just
no
go with
problem.
the next question.
Okay, I will go with the next question. Would you rather buy clothes online or at store?
I would buy clothes rather over online by, but getting confused over this sentence.
Okay, would you like to question me?
Yeah, you ask her a few questions in the same manner.
Okay. Would you rather wear formals or casual wears for the party?
I would wear formals than party wear.
Okay. Would you rather choose rainy season or a winter season to go out?
I would choose rainy seasons than again. Can you
That's what a confusing point. Okay.
rainy or winter?
Yeah.
I would rather rainy season than winter season.
You would rather go,
Choose,
choose.
choose,
Yes.
choose. I would rather choose rainy season than winter season.
Would you rather find offline classes or online classes more
Interesting.
interesting or
I would rather invest on online classes over than sorry. I would rather online classes than going to college.
Okay. Now, now, having seen how, it's not all that easy, really. Even practicing is not all that easy. So, what is important is you write these sentences, script them, and then start practicing them. And when you do that for some time and slowly leave the paper out and start asking your friends what they like most, what is their favorite, and so ask questions first and read their responses. Now, here is a challenge again. Now, the three of us are going to have a small talk show with, uh, Manasa and Suguna asking me a few questions on what I like doing. You can use the constructions. What do you like? Which do you prefer? Or what would you rather? Would rather, like, and prefer. Oh, over, you can go on and whatever. Again, dear friends, all those who are watching us, this is a game. And generally, when we play a game, the purpose of the game is to unconsciously learn a lot. And not only that, also to enjoy. So, after this, perhaps I'll open my chat box and I request the people who are typing in the chat box to type only relevant questions and nothing else. So you can ask me a few questions on what I like or what my preferences are. When you ask, you ask be conscious about the question that you ask And please note down my answers because I might ask one of you to summarize. And whom I ask, I will not tell you. It could either be Manas or it could be Suguna. So you'll have to tell at the end, towards the end, what my preferences are after finding out from me. There you go. You can ask me any number of questions. All the viewers, just check if their questions are right. If they are not, and it doesn't matter because communication is happening, I correct them. Start.
Do you like hot coffee or ice cream?
I prefer hot coffee over ice cream. You can ask me our own questions as to why, and it can be
We
an
can
open, yes,
converse.
you can, it is an open conversation with here and then asking me about my
So
preferences.
there is any particular reason why you like only a hot coffee?
You prefer hot
Hot
coffee.
coffee only.
The reason why I prefer hot coffee is you can see I'm growing older and therefore my voice cracks. So when I drink something hot, it is better. And anything cold, my voice gets damaged further. So I prefer hot coffee over a cold drink.
So what is your favorite dish which you love to cook by yourself at your home place?
The favorite dish that I love cooking at home, if you call it a dish or if you could call it a snack, I love to make dosas at home because they come out really crispy and
Easy to
easy
make.
to make.
So at your childhood, ma'am, what was your favorite subject which you would love to do or you prefer the like which is very much important for you at your childhood? You feel it is very important subject for me.
Okay. They're looking back, I should say, during my childhood, I loved studying mathematics.
Why?
The
Can we know?
reason is, there is always a chance of getting 100 out of 100, which is, in a way, an achievement, especially in those days in the 70s. That is when I did my schooling. So, in those days, getting a 100 itself was a huge achievement. And I loved it because I was doing it well. And I also liked the logic. It developed your logical thinking also, mathematics as such.
So you would be helping with your friends with the help maths, like you used to help your friends or used to be as an introvert kid.
No, I don't know. Perhaps if they did ask me a few doubts, I did help. But then, during schooling, it is
Music you prefer more when your mood swings are changing into a bad things.
in the negative instances, the music. If there is a negative instance, the first thing that I would do is I prefer to change my mood. So if I have to change my mood, I prefer listening to fast beat songs over the sad melodies.
It means you like pop songs.
And not exactly anything that is fast beat where there is a lot of drum beat.
Math hits.
It takes your mood into a jolly one if you are feeling low. Otherwise, I like all the the melodious songs.
Do you like wearing uniform or
this is
normal?
this is a question that you should have asked me when I was in school. It is mandatory to wear uniforms. There's no choice. So how do I answer that?
So where you like to spend more time in your office or you try to spend some time with your family? Most you prefer, where you prefer so much of time to spend?
Which one do you prefer? Spending time with family or
Or
doing
friends
work?
or office work,
You
like
know,
a woman in
uh,
office?
naturally, the first thing that I would say is I love to spend time with family. That is, I think, everybody's a preference, wanting to spend time with family. But then, if you say office is also a second home because we spend most of our time there, most of our waking hours we spend in the office. So preference wise, again, you divide it, you make adjustments with your time so that you neither not to work at office, nor do you actually neglect home. So I've learned to balance between the two.
So if you got some or vacation or some free time holiday, so which place would you prefer to move? Hilltops or beach areas or etc.
I prefer, as Mansa said, I prefer the beaches over the hilltops.
You would prefer.
I think
Okay,
we
I
both
think
have.
with that, the listeners, you have seen how they've been asking questions for my preferences, and I've been, trying to answer them. And if they are ready, one of them might want to sum it up. Would you like to sum it up? Or, whatever you heard me say, Madam prefers this over that, or prefers this to that. If you can give a small summary of what you heard. Anybody, the two of you. But I want you to be conscious about using the structure. She prefers this over that, or she likes this better than that.
You like more dosa.
No, I think you should speak to the camera and not to me.
I need to
It, it
think
is a
about it.
it is a summary on what Madam likes. That is the question thrown to you. What does Madam like more than what? Very quick. Or the two of you can intersperse one sentence once. I can say the second.
So first, a respected madam, she likes to drink hot coffee more rather than ice cream. Why? Because should I
No,
explain the
not
reason also?
necessary.
Or
Not necessary.
okay, fine.
Stick to preferences.
Okay. She prefers hot coffee rather than using. Sorry, rather than
Hot coffee prefers hot coffee too.
To
prefers
ice
hot
cream.
to
Mm,
ice cream.
mm.
Okay. And can you go with this dish one?
Mm,
Yeah, one sentence. You can exchange your sentences.
I have
After.
bribed some questions here.
Ma'am prefers dosa over any and all other dishes. Why? Because that's very
It's a
easy
crispy one.
and
Hmm.
it's very easy to make. And when we come to our subjects, she chooses mathematics over all other subjects.
It make me
And when we come to music,
music. Ma'am, like a fast beat music over
she
other
prefers
musics.
she prefers fast music beats rather than the slow one to just change her mood swings. And
Mm.
yeah, wait.
Ma'am want to spend time with their family rather than with the friends, others, and outside also.
Yeah. And she would prefer to go to beaches at her holiday times, or she would love to hang out with her family, friends,
At
or at
beaches.
beaches areas rather than going to the hilltops or some other places.
Ma'am prefer beaches over hilltops.
Right.
That's one.
Now,
Thank you.
now you've seen how once you know what exactly you should use, and then you practice in this manner, first by guided, writing it out and practicing, and then without any paper or book, practicing with your friends. When you know what it is, there is every possibility that within yourself, one would be correcting the other. And there is also a lot of self correction that happens. And when this happens, you are ready. So today, we have learned how to ask for preferences and how to state our preferences. There are general preferences like what do you actually like over a period of time? I prefer dash to dash, or I like dash better than dash. And in specific instances, I would rather sing than dance. I would rather sing than dance. This is in a very formal situation. Or I would prefer dancing to singing. This, this is a very simple structure. And to ask which one do you prefer? Which do you prefer? Or do you like this better than that? Or there is yet another structure. What do you like? It's all so very simple when you come to think of it, practice it, and after practicing, please see to it that you use it more and more in your daily life. If you do that, you are bound to improve in your spoken life. with these, with this, we call it a day. We'll meet again in our next class with yet another function in our course on functional English. Thank you for being with us. Please subscribe to our channel and please watch it. If you have missed the live session, please watch it later. Thank you. Bye. And I should thank my two little friends here, Suguna and Manasam. Thank you for being such sportive performers in this session. We'll invite you again and again to the studio to help us out practice
Thank you so
many
much,
other
ma'am, for giving this opportunity to just interact with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome, welcome.
We would love to come and learn more from you, ma'am.
Okay. And I hope all the students also enjoyed, because it is not just the teacher who's important. Teacher is nothing without the student, and this has proved it. The session has become more interesting because of the presence of Suguna and Manasa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you. Thank you to all the viewers. Please pay attention to all the sessions. Keep learning.